Uh, I welcome our next speaker, Major General Binoj Basnyet, a highly decorated veteran of Nepal Army. He is a recipient of the Order of Suprabal Jan Sri, Order of the Lion of Finland, and the Order of Cross of Germany. He has been an alumni of NDC New Delhi and Command and General Staff College, Fort Leavenworth, USA. He has also attended Advanced Security Cooperation course from the Asia Pacific Center for Security Studies, Hawaii, USA. Executive course in Defense Decision Making from the Center of Civil Military Relations, Naval Postgraduate School, Monterey, USA. Further, he has been a graduate of Royal Military Academy Sandhurst, United Kingdom, and Army War College, Mao. His key assignments included command of a brigade, deputy chief of staff and commandant of Nepalese Army Military Academy and Nepalese Army Command and Staff College. Presently, he is involved in advising, writing, editing, and participating in intellectual capacity on geopolitical and national security issues. The General will speak on aspirations and expectations of Nepal from India to strengthen Indo-Nepal relations. Over to you, sir. We look forward to your very uh, intently.
Right, thank you. Thank you so much. I hope you can all hear me.
Yes, we can.
Thank you. All right. Thank you for the kind introduction, and thank you once again, the Society for Transformative Research Integrations and the Veterans Empowerment, the Strive, for giving me the platform to talk on an imperative, the aspirations and expectations of Nepal from India to strengthen Nepal-India relationship. Where the geopolitical environment is shifting and the world focuses on our part of the world, South Asia is more strategic in the second half of the 21st century. So let me flinch with the customary and conduct of politicians. Politicians always claim to work for the people and for the benefits of the poor. And the opposition parties claim to protect and prevent the people from their own government. So, so I'm very pleased to be a part of the veterans panel this morning. I can talk openly and attempt to bring about probable measures or a way forward that exists between our two nations that are interconnected, interdependent, not just with the borders, civilization, strong culture, and a history. So I do not want to. Sorry. Not want to go to the details of thought and diplomatic efforts that has been like surfacing in the last 5 years with the promulgations of the Nepal's Federal Secular Republic 2015 Constitution, which was promulgated by the majority of the legislature, but was opposed. Was not possessed by the Madhesis, the Janjatis, and the Tharus, which was then followed by the undeclared blockade by India, the left parties, the constitutional forces, the United Marxist and Leninist, and the constituted forces, the Nepal Communist Party, Mao's unity in the three-tier elections with an anti-Indian oratory. So the communist government's parliamentary endorsement to induct Kalapani area in the maps of Nepal, making the disputed area into occupied. So these issues have been part of one, the domestic nationalism that most nations are thriving forward with, and of course, two, the geopolitical shifts in South Asia. So when we discuss about the populace, it is different in the mountains, hills, madhes, and the urban areas. Let me highlight the general perception that the Nepalese people talk about. One is India's micromanagement in Nepal. Two, the use of anti-Indian slogans by political parties in relations for domestic nationalism. 3, the use of China's political interests for political suitability. So now I will examine 5 doctrinal imperatives. 1, the changed geography. So the Himalayas and the south of the Himalayas has formidably changed, and it is more accessible due to the variations in environment, infrastructure development, and political interests and political will by the People's Republic of China. The mountains that used to be barriers are flattening. The strategic communications networks are being constructed. Connectivity is not just physical and amongst bordering states, but ideas, values, and cultures are also there. Okay. So the regional old structure is in question with the China's growing interest in South Asia. With the visits of President Xi Jinping to Nepal, Myanmar, and its support to Pakistan in the UN on the revoking of Article 370, it's just few examples. So the economic assistance and the engagements are assisting for political influence and strategic interest. So China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, the CPEC, Nepal as a gateway to India with Belt and Road Initiative, with the China Trans-Himalayan Dimensional Connectivity Network, China-Myanmar Economic India-Myanmar corridor. So the additions of China's firmness and a will to be a bridge to the Indian Ocean, as 80% of China's energy resources grow through the Malacca Straits. Now, Nepal's General Dushant had brought up, I mean, it covers more than 14 kilometers. It's also a sensitive and perceived as a probability of threat to both China and India. Nepal stood as a buffer, the opening and the likelihood of strategic connectivity with air, train from the Himalayas to the borders of India. The trends of geopolitics will put up with the regional linkages, which will uphold security, diplomatic. All 6 mountain passes from China to Nepal are vibrant and strategically promising. The Kalapani area, which is 416 kilometers to located at the northwest end, and most Olangchungula is 41 kilometers to the Siliguri corridor, known as the chicken neck of India. So both these areas are the only 2 districts that border China and India. So Siliguri is the state of West Bengal, is a vital intersection that connects Bhutan, Nepal, and Bangladesh. The Darjeeling Hills, Northeast India, and Sikkim are equally imperative. So the 2 landlocked tiny Himalayan South Asian nations, Bhutan and Nepal, along the Himalayas, and the northeastern part of India, also known as Seven Sisters, are the most important strategic constituents in South Asia. So the China has stretched out bilateral and multilateral associations with South Asian states, particularly Bangladesh, Myanmar, Nepal, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, and Thailand. In respect of economy, political cooperation indicates the strategic shift of China. Point is the geopolitical situation is diverse. So why is the Himalayan region even more significant now? So the geopolitical narratives can be assumed in the power competition, cooperation, and now confrontations between China and India in South Asia and the Himalayan region. China and India's rise and influence is leading to geopolitical and geoeconomic stimulus in South Asian region. So the militarizations of the Himalayas can be an example of 2 powers intersect interests being more political with risks of threat defending the Himalayan region. For China, the province of Xinjiang, Tibet, alongside the Himalayas, is in the same way imperative for stability. So China's peaceful rise, and sometimes referred to as peaceful development, is an official principles of countering China's threat theory. So Nepal sought for an alternative strategic network after the unofficial blockade by India, when China's and gain a foothold, while India's lack of trust in Nepal's policies and political leaders and their footprints, as well as, of course, of actions in Nepal, surely has a geopolitical and geoeconomic significance. So the Oli government looked into the northern neighbors, signed various MOUs, and allowed transport, allowing access to seaports of third country with 6 custom points and 3 trade routes, which sounds good, but is yet to see and very challenging. China has been the largest source of FDIs in Nepal now. The agreements focus mainly on 7 categories, mainly strategic communication, connectivity with railways and waterways, energy with hydro projects, power trade, infrastructure development, agriculture, political and diplomatic gestures, and security concerns. So when the world and the accountable leaders are equally responsive to addressing COVID-19, so is the momentum of Cold War 2.0 revamping. China espouses policies to internally harmonize its society and externally promote a peaceful international environment in South Asia. China seeks to avoid unnecessary international confrontations, distinguishing as a responsible leader, and put emphasis on soft power. I think a few occurrences that were visible are the Doklam dilemma that lasted 73 days in 2007, 5 of August revoking of Article 370 and 35A of the constitutions of India, forming 2 union territories, Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh. And as of 5th May, China and India's actions in border in Penyong Lake, Ladakh, face-offs are ongoing. So the militarizations and development of infrastructure by both China and India is the impetus. The recent surfacing of border disputes between Nepal and India is in the strategically military vital Kalapani area is another case in point of the importance of the Himalayan region. And my third point is a great power rivalry is shifting in our part of the world. So the United States and China's rivalry are emerging in our regions, with the United States national security strategy has clearly established China, Russia as competitors. The United States is using economic tools, alliance and partnership. India and China's confrontation is evidently visible. The geopolitical and geoeconomics environment in the Himalayan region post-COVID-19 must be well analyzed and evaluated to give course to effective diplomatic management, considering the Indo-Sino and Indo-US relations are constantly changing. So at the country's level, if we refer Nepal's foreign policy in 1950s, it is evidently the regional evolutions such as India's independence and Chinese annexation of Tibet, formation of a world's political, the United Nations and financial institute, the World Bank, has played a major factor in determining Nepal's and the Himalayan course of politics. And such affairs will influence the border boundaries adjoining China along the Himalayas, will therefore continue to be a matter of concern to both China and India and the 5 states that border both the powers, including Nepal. So the focus of the United States defense forces in the regions, the building up of Chinese defense assets along its Tibetan plateau, and India's neighborhood first and act east policy are all indications of a larger power game comprising the competition between the 2 largest economies of the world. Therefore, the upcoming geopolitical evolutions of the Himalayan region is an important area of concern. So let me go to the other point, is the argument if China will come as a contributor while Indo-US strategic cooperation comes up with allies and partners to isolate China. So the recent examples was in Nepal, where there were gossips of IPS, the Indo-Pacific Strategy, the Belt and Road Initiative, and the Millennium MCC. So the new Biden administration has said his administration was prepared for extreme competitions with China, but that his approach would be different than his predecessor. So I quote, "I am not going to do it the way Trump did. We are going to focus on the international rules of the road." So Biden told this, so that's unquote, in the interview with the CBS. So the tensions between Beijing and Washington, the world's two largest economies, soared under the Trump administrations and looks like will continue in the years to come, but in a different modus operandi. So my fourth point now is the geopolitical compulsions is visible. So the values-based dimensions is also in roads. So democracy versus totalitarian communism is underway. So the fundamental, how would a non-aligned movement shape and how would the first neighborhood policy unfold? So economy will continue and remain as a tool of national power. Military threat is more visible than before. So India's vital strategic role is visible, and again, stressing on Act-East policy, Look West policy, and Look Far-East policy. So the first neighborhood policy is unfinished. India is more inclined to strategic rebalancing approach. Then my last point is the weak system of governance in Nepal, mainly due to corruption and lack of strategic thinking, is observed. So let me highlight the geopolitical trends. So India and China paid and rapid economic growth and political influence in South Asia. A strategic communication network north to south as part of the BRI project will put up strategic regional linkages, which will uphold security, diplomatic, and economic and political consequences. A variety of transport systems from air, land, rail, and waterways. And lastly, new approach for economic development through mega projects and increase the energy plant and power and the FDI. So with these surroundings, let me recommend the three way forward, though there are many that could be highlighted. So the way forward is one, geostrategic connectivity. So Nepal and India must use the bilateral resources for multilateral or regional benefits. For example, efficient and effective use of water resources for energy, and air, land, and water-based infrastructure connectivity. Second is multi-dimensional engagement, youth-focused engagement, cultural and religious engagement that binds people to people, government engagement with emphasis on bureaucratic engagement, consistent national policy-based engagement, and the last is advanced security engagements to confront common challenges. And my third way forward is perception that influences internal and external factors of international relations. So this is like directly influences trust between the people that can be utilized or misutilized for political convenience. One is information's, or many times, unfortunately, disinformation's-led perception. Second is promise versus action-led perception. Third is bilateral understanding of perception on global affairs. So let me conclude that one of the most fundamentals of Nepal-India relations is Nepal-India security relationship. National security and regional security come as a priority in these changing times and circumstances. The global concerns is changing. Indo-Pacific is the priority and South Asia is shifting. So domestic nationalism in both Nepal and India has been a trend in politics. So risk of regional polarization the stability of foreign policy amid political chaos, creating an environment for working together post-COVID-19 is a challenge and vulnerability for both Modi and Oli. So a strategy to cope with the pandemic would need to harness resources, though vaccine diplomacy is on hand. Nepal is going through multiple crises, from pandemic disease, political instability, misgovernance, and economic contractions to systematic inequality and environmental degradations. So the Quad looks vital for prosperity and stability in the Indo-Pacific regions and the world. Would there be a military alliance to pressure and bring in China? The United States during the Cold War opposed whatever the Soviets sought to make inroads and interventions active. Now in Cold War 2.0, interventions in China looks likely. So the incidents in the Himalayan region happens with an intent. Indications hint on possibilities. Nepal and India will have to look happenings in the Himalayas with possibilities of long-term strategic impact. So hope Nepal's political masters and head of strategic organizations understand the geostrategic picture, interests and policies of both the immediate neighbors and politics, and even constraints that could corner Nepal's means and ways to evolve her own interest. So Nepal cannot afford to play one nation to the other. It will be both a strategic and diplomatic setback. People cannot be held prisoners for strategic mistakes of lack of strategic thoughts and decisions by politicians. So the root of Nepal-India's geopolitical predicament lies in the lack of strategic management. Strategically, it is poverty. 2, rise in unemployment. In governance, it is bad management in all fields, including border. 2, accountability. 3, corruption. And 4, structural deficiency. So let me end with the 3 points. Politically, let us assure the people of Nepal and India on the portent of our togetherness. 2, assuring India and Nepal can defend its territory. Diplomatically, to trust with India on the denial of activities that offends the values and principles of their existence. 2, Nepal territory cannot be used by any foreign defense forces. 3, Nepal adheres to the principles of non-alignment and coexistence. Militarily, assure both the neighbors of Nepalese army's capabilities and the ability with defensive potentials to defend our own territory, integrity, and sovereignty. Thank you.
Very high scholastic presentation by General Basnyet. Thank you, sir, for a very detailed presentation. Some of the major issues which I could, I can highlight. One is what he talks of cooperation in the resources, and presently only 45 megawatts worth of cooperation is there between India and Nepal, and which has got a potential of almost 45,000 megawatts of water-based resources. Same is energy, though there some lines have been made, power connection, but much more needs to be done. And in the end, what he mentioned about creating mutual trust, I think that's the most important part. I think the decision makers need to take note of, in both the countries, of what General Basnyet has mentioned. And thank you for your very candid presentation.